So, hello everyone. My name is Sarah Dewitt. I'm a 16-month student here at Columbia University School of Social Work. Today I'm going to be presenting on an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to be discussing the history of Albany's Rap Road community, which is a historic district in Albany, New York. Um, I'm going to be talking about how my family came to be a part of this, and it's the story of how my family ended up settling here. This presentation is adapted from Jennifer Lemack, who did her PhD dissertation on my family history through relevant research and person-to-person interviews. And I have the book right here if you guys, when you get a chance at the end, want to come and take a look at it. So I'm going to start talking about the Great Migration, which is how my family came to live in Albany, New York. There were two waves, one in the early 1900s and one in the mid to late 1900s. And I like this map because it gives a visual perspective of where African Americans came from and the states that they went to. The states that they came from are in red, which is Mississippi, and the states that they went to are in blue, which was mostly in California and New York. So our story begins in Shibuya, Mississippi. On this map, you can see the location of Shibuya. So this is a typical family moving from the south to the north during the Great Migration. You can see in this picture, I'm going to go into it a little bit more, but the conditions under which they moved. Many families left with not even this amount of stuff. Some families left on a bus, some, piled into a car with just a few dollars in their pocket. And there were many reasons why they left the South. Segregation, discrimination, lack of employment, and educational opportunities, lynching. So this picture is a photo of a family sharecropping in the South. Sharecropping was a big way of disenfranchisement, and we're talking about theme of the day is power and privilege, how the dominant race, the white race in the South, wanted to keep their status of power and privilege by suppressing African Americans. Sharecropping was a major way that was used after this. After slavery was illegal, it was sort of a way to get around it, where they would sell the land to African, or let African Americans farm the land, and would charge them substantial fees for farming the land. So they would get money from their crops, but they would end up owing money to the to the owners of the land because of the high prices. This is an example of segregation. I always say I look at the water fountain picture and say which water fountain would use. This is an example of the education segregation discrimination that occurred. Just the quality of resources you can see differed. This picture is a pretty powerful picture. This bridge is famous in Mississippi. It's known as the hanging bridge, where many African Americans were hung. This particular picture shows two young African American women who were framed for the murder of a dentist. And one of the women was actually pregnant. And they said that, this is pretty disturbing, but they said that, after she was hung and she was deceased, you could still for a while see her infant child moving inside of her. So, moving on to the pole migration factors, which is a little bit more positive. African Americans were, they were appealed to the North by the opportunities that they thought, the participation in government, more employment opportunities outside of working on plantations, greater educational opportunities, and overall just being the land of opportunity. This is an example of an African American being able to vote in 1942 in the North. It's an example of factory work, which was, something outside of sharecropping, still hard and intense labor, but it's a better way of surviving. And here we begin our story, how my family all fits into this. So this is Bishop Lewis W. Parson. He came into a large sum. He was from Shibuya, Mississippi. He came into a large sum of money, and at the time, it was very dangerous for an African American man to have a large sum of money living in the South. So he decided to move up north. He originally moved to Ohio, but found that wasn't the place for him, so he eventually moved to Albany, New York. And him, along with Reverend John Johnson, would go back and forth between Shibuya, Mississippi, and Albany, New York, bringing African Americans up to the land of opportunity. So we start to talk about Albany, New York, which I don't know if many of you probably know when we talk about policy, but it's the capital of New York State. So my family originally, and Louis W. Parson originally settled in downtown Albany. The picture of downtown Albany, which even up till today, it has a very city-like atmosphere. Not as intense as New York City, but there was, I don't know how to say it, they weren't very comfortable living downtown because most of the people that came from Shibuya, Mississippi were from rural areas. There was also a very large religious practice in Christianity. So downtown had a lot of drinking, gambling, and even prostitution in the early 1900s. This is an example of one of the bars. So Louis W. Parson found a place in Albany Pine Bush, which is a very foresty area in Albany, and bought a settlement of about, I want to say, it's a little bit over 20 acres of land. And here you can just see this is Shibuya, Mississippi, and this is Rapp Road where the settlement took place. So you can see how similar these two areas are. So one of the families that came to live on Rapp Road was, these are my great-grandparents, Alfred and Leola Woodard. They came by car with only a few dollars in their pocket, just a little bit of food, and came up north. They originally, like I said, lived downtown with my great-uncle. And Louis W. Parson eventually was able to, as families were able to afford it, he would sell off parcels of land to them. And at first, just because of the lack of income and lack of resources, the land was used for farming because most of them were sharecroppers. So they found that as a great source of income. They were able to save up money from that and any other little side jobs they could find. They originally lived in like a one room. I don't even think there was running water with their families. And as they lived there and they farmed and were able to save up money, they were able to buy supplies as they can get it and build the houses, because back then, talk about issues of power and privilege, African Americans, it was very hard for them to be able to get a mortgage. So they just had to do things as they can from the money they had. So this is an example of Alfred and Lee they built. And this is the house today. And then I also want to go into, so this is the house in Shibuya, Mississippi, just looking at the relationship between the North and the South and why they were so appealed to the Rapp Road community. Now, fast forwarding a little bit till today and back then. So originally when he first got here, one of the first things that was done after they were able to establish the community was to create a church. And this church sort of served as a place of refuge and a place of gathering for them to come and participate in their community. And then going on till today, one of the great things is annually we have a family reunion that sort of stemmed from the church. There were people that would come up from down south, and one time they put on a big dinner, and that just sort of evolved into the family reunion. You can see right here in this picture in the background, that's the smokehouse where they used to smoke meat. Now we use it to serve food. The pit is where it's like our famous corn that they would, actually back then they would grow the corn and then boil it in that pot. Yeah. This is another picture of the smokehouse. And these are the kids at the family reunion. I think the little girl, I don't know, I can't point to it that much, but with her head turned over in the middle of the picture, I'm pretty sure that's me. Okay, so then, through the work of Jennifer Lemack and other people in my family, my grandmother, my aunts, they were able to, in 2003, to have Rapp Road known as the Historic District in Albany, New York. This is where I really want to get into the power and privilege issues and our roles as social workers. So this distinction was given because of this, and I think even before that, every year we're able to block off a section of the road for the family reunion. So we literally like shut down the community so that, it's just for us. People can go on the nearby roads, go around it, but the community is really there just for 1 week and every month, and I mean every year in August. Now, because you can see a little bit better in this picture, because of the location of the community, like I said originally, it was a rural, sort of undeveloped area in Albany, New York, very similar to the South. There was only there was one dirt road that that you could use to reach the community. Right here, you see the main street right there. That's Washington Avenue. In Albany, New York, that was built in the 70s as a way of people getting in there. Once that road was built, developers came in and saw this as a great opportunity. Like, there's all this land out here, we can make buildings. They built a mall. They saw it as a great opportunity for development. It's like this, undeveloped area. Here's another picture. You can just see where Rapp Road runs between the two red dots. And again, Washington Avenue. So like I said, the mall was built. One of the things that we've been struggling with now is with the construction of the mall and other settlements, people now, it's come up again where they see the land as an opportunity to be developed. So this article is from a property management group that saw this as an opportunity to build office buildings. One of the original homes was destroyed. It was kind of run down, so someone bought it, demolished the home, and so it has an opportunity to build office buildings. Well, having an office building right in the middle of a residential historic community doesn't really seem. So what my family did is they petitioned to not have that office building be built, and we actually won that fight. Although the person still owns the land, they're not allowed to do the office building. So right now, there's still a conversation going on about how we can develop this. Additionally, this has been a little bit more recent, just in the past few months. There's a nursing home nearby, and they bought another building. The original homes, and we're planning on, I believe, demolishing it. But then, this argument is still going on, saying, that could take away from the historic features of the community. And those are like pretty much the last slides that I have. But I just want to say our positions here as social workers dealing with issues of power and privilege and disenfranchisement. How can we, from a policy standpoint and one-on-one, prevent this from happening, prevent people and communities from having things taken from them, especially in relation to race and ethnicity, communities that are so underprivileged and pushed down so much? How can we bring them up and encourage them to rise up and keep the community cohesion when other people can come in and see like, oh, this is a great opportunity for us to come in and take advantage. How do we prevent that from happening? That's sort of the question that I want to leave you guys with. I think we might have a chance for question and answers, but